No lemons today. Let's see how this goes. So I have a nice Pictoday reference for a couple of lemons here, and they're quite big on this printout actually, aren't they? I may not do them quite this size. Maybe just a little smaller and vignette the leaves around it. But they're nice bright yellows here, which is nice. And the thing I want to do is to really show the form of these lemons, so it means getting the values right, definitely values and the colours right in the shadows here, and to bring out the lemons themselves, getting the values and the colours of the leaves behind it. Welcome. So let's do a bit of drawing first, and then we'll have a look at the colours and the values and see what we're dealing with. Right, so let's do some drawing. Pencil, mechanical pencil, Faber-Castell, my favourite pencil. It looks fancy, it's not particularly fancy. And I think this is it's a 0.7 millimeter lead, and I think it's actually quite a soft one, purely because these were the only 0.7 millimeter lids I had in my box. But I think it's a B or something like that, but an HB is probably a bit better. Right, let's go with these lemons. Let's have a look. Now, what I like to do with when we've got fruit is looking at the angles and putting those angles in, so doing negative drawing, and also judging the relative positions of various things. So the top of this lemon is about, what's that, about a third of the way down, this right hand one. The bottom of this lemon is about a third of the way up this one. They're about the same height, I think. Yes, they're about the same height. So let's roughly put the top of this lemon in, and then roughly just put the bottom of this lemon, just looking here, it's on a slight angle. Bottom of this lemon is about here. Let's put this flat away so I've got a bit of movement. And I'm going to estimate that the side of this lemon around here, I'm mostly doing this in roughly straight lines. This one is slightly shallower. As I'm going down, so this is a line, and I'm trying to get that angle right. This is a line, and it's almost vertical, that one, not quite. And we're coming round. And I've got this nub characteristic lemons here. Now, I think I've done that wrong, haven't I? Should be further over. Should come down a bit more. That's a bit better. Now the top of this one, third of the way down. I'm looking at this negative angle. This is almost vertical, and this comes off. And this one down here, this one comes off, and this one now is almost vertical. And bottom of this lemon. This leaf, we're going to have to do something with this leaf. This is not a good composition for this lemon. We might tuck this leaf behind top of this lemon. Around. There we go, our 2 lemons. A little bit of a bulge there. I'll make it slightly wider here. Okay. And we've got shadows on here, but it's very light, this yellow, so if it were a darker colour, I'd roughly mark where the shadows were, or rather where it goes from light to dark. I'm not going to do that with this one. We'll put in a few of these leaves. This one, a little leaf that comes behind there, which is kind of nice. And if they're not going in the places I want them to go in, I can just make them up. This one that comes out here, which I think will keep. Here. Goes behind that one. I'm going to make him a little bigger. Okay, now we may keep to these leaf marks, or we may not. Let's put a stalk in here. This one coming out here. Stalk. Now, if I was doing this as a painting, I was going to do as an actual painting, I would think through these leaf positions a lot more. Kind of like these stalks coming out. A few more of those in. And stalk here. These nice little knobbles. It's a leaf. Okay, so that's my drawing. I'm just going to put it on Zoom cam so you can see the drawing a little better. Okay, I'm going to stand back and see if there's anything horrendous that I don't like. No, they look like lemons to me. I think they look like lemons to me. Okay, right, back to canvas cam. All right, so let's leave that drawing for a bit. Let's get some scrap paper out. Let's have a look at these colours. Now, we've got the yellows of the lemons and we've got the greens of the leaves. So let's have a look at the yellows of these lemons. I'm going to get a bit of scrap. Right, so first of all, let's think about the values. The thing about yellow is that the brightest yellows are always the lightest in value, highest in value. And the light is coming from over here, so this is our lightest piece, and then it goes gradually darker and darker as we come to the bottom. But it's not particularly dark down there, I don't think. I'm going to get my value scale out. Now up here it's probably a 10 or so. Really, really light. Yes, So we might leave a little bit of white paper here, or very, very light yellow there. But down here, I'm going to reckon it's maybe a 5 or a 6. Let's have a look at a 6. Yeah, that's a 6. Now I can see that because I'm squinting my eyes, almost my eyes almost shut actually. And if I move that across, so yes, I can just about see that transition. But with this 6, I can't. So it's down to around a 6 down there. And the colour, I suspect, is going to get a little browner, a little more orange as we go to the bottom. So let's just get a trusty colour isolator out, which an idea I stole from Paul Coxton. So let's have a look up here. So yeah, so that's a light yellow up there. And the value of that is, yeah, probably an 8.5. It's no darker than that. And let's have a look. If we go down here, yeah, it's getting a lot more orangey. Light yellow. That's kind of a brown almost down there. Let me just pop this onto the zoom cam so you see this a little better. Yeah, this is a light yellow, more towards green, and then would get down to a orangey brown down there, which we said was a 6, didn't we? So let's match those two colours. If we can match those two colours, I think we should be good for getting the form on this lemon. Let's just have a quick look at this mid. Yeah, so this is, yeah, it's midway between, and I think it's midway between colour-wise. What did we say? That was an 8. This is a 6, so that should be a 7. If it is. Yeah, it's around a 7. Okay, and before we do that, let's just have a look on Chroma Magic. I have this loaded up. Right, here we have Chroma Magic, and we have the reference photo in the top left, and on the top right is a zoomed in region, and I can click on the light part of the lemon. This is the lemon on the left, so this actually thinks it's a 9 there, but that looks pretty much like the colour we had. Yeah, so if we go down a little bit, it goes to an 8. Whoops. Sorry, this is my development version. And 2 and 7, I'm moving down the lemon. 7 still. Now we're getting to a 6, and that's kind of that orangey yellow colour. But we're still on the 5Y page. Oh, so it started off at 7.5Y, which is slightly greenish. Then we moved down to 5, so it has moved slightly towards orange, not too much, but slightly. Okay, let's take him back. We don't actually need that. If we have a printout, we can use that isolator. So let's try and match this top one and the bottom one. Let's see how we do with those. Right, I like to draw these little boxes, and I'll do some swatches next to it. Lemon, light, and I often put on, let's do an 8.5, the value, just so I can remember. This is lemon shadow. That was a 6, right? Okay, let's get a brush. And I'm just going to dampen my brush. I'm going to get a bit of paper towel. Right, so the yellow I'm using, I call it lemon yellow. It's a slightly greenish yellow, but it's actually has a yellow light. A cadmium lemon would work. Not anything that's too orangey. So yellow ochre is definitely not going to work. It's too dark, and it's too orangey. And a cadmium yellow. Cadmium yellows vary an awful lot, and they're mostly too orangey too. So something that's cadmium lemon or lemon yellow will be good. Right, I'm just going to take that. Right, it's pale, so I'm going to need some more water for that. I'm just going to add in some water, change the consistency. Let's move it across. That's the light. Right, now that is actually, it's about the right value, but it's too bright. Now, this is going to look really, really weird when we do this. We could use it like this, it's the right value. We'd get something that looks like a lemon, but the colours probably would look a little bright. Let's try and get them, a little closer. So I'm going to put in a very, very small amount of black. And I know this feels weird. Right, and it'll make it look kind of olivey green in the palette. Because I've added in black, it'll make it darker, so I'm adding in a bit more water to make it lighter again. Bit of paper, I can see it. Now what this black does is it takes the brightness out of the colour. So that might have been okay. I don't think we need to change it too much. But what I'm seeing now, it's just taken the punch out of it a little bit. And it hasn't made it darker because we've added some water back in. I think it's actually slightly too green, so I want to add in a little bit of orange. Very, very small. This is very subtle, this change. You don't necessarily need this. I'm putting in a little bit of cadmium orange just to pull it slightly orangey. And this is more practice for colour mixing than wanting to paint the perfect lemon. A little more water for that. I just think it's slightly too dark. Yeah. Right, yeah. So I think that's good for me. And if I look back at my original one, actually it's not too far off. It would probably have been okay. But it's good being able to spot a colour being too bright and knowing how to change it. You've got to be careful with adding black. It can make things look far too grey. So it uses a very slight modifier. Right, okay. So that's that one. I'm not going to save it. I just want some practice in mixing it beforehand. Now let's have a look at this one down the bottom. I'm assuming both lemons are going to be roughly, yeah, they're roughly the same. Let's have a look at this one. We said it was a value 6. And it's kind of, it's an orangey brown colour. I'm thinking maybe our yellow ochre is very close. So that's what I would start with. The pigment on the palette is closest. Then modify it from there. Alright, let's have a look at this. Right, okay. Well, it's not bad. I think it's slightly too orange. And I think it's slightly too orange. Let's add a bit of lemon yellow in. It's slightly too orange, so we want to push it towards the yellow, but it's probably going to make it too light. That light actually. Actually, I might go with that just a tad more. Yeah. It might be a little light, but I'm going to go with that one. So this is just yellow ochre with a little bit of lemon yellow in it. Now let's see how we do with that. Okay. So let's try our lemon. We've got our two colours, and they look quite far apart in value, which they are. So we've got to blend them well on the paper to make our lemon look good. Okay. I'm wondering actually if we just mix this one. Yeah, let's start with the dark one and see how we do. I'm going to do it that way. So let's mix up a nice big splurge of this dark colour. I've got my swatches ready, which are kind of handy because I don't need to get value scales or use my memory for anything. I can just put some dabs next to it and see if I've got the right colour. Right, so yellow ochre. This is Da Vinci yellow ochre, by the way. I think yellow ochre is probably vary a little bit between manufacturers, but I've had a big job lot of yellow ochre. So this is the only one I've used. Right, okay. Making quite a lot. It might not be dark enough, that I need quite a bit of pigment, but I want the paint to flow. I don't want to be trying to butter the paper and spread it around. I want it to flow. And I think I'm going to wet this paper too. Let's see how that works. I'm making this stuff up as I go along, I hope so. Right, so I've got a mop brush. I'm going to wet this lemon just to see how it works. I'll wet the other one as well, I think. I don't know if I've got enough pigment to do both. See how it goes. Could be a disaster. Never believe anyone who paints and says they get it right every time, because they don't. Right, so we want most of the colour down the bottom. We do want to bring a little bit up. So put on the colour. Right, we're going to bring it up through here. Right, so it's a little too orange here. So add in a bit of lemon yellow. Just where most of the colour is. Right, and let's leave a little bit just around that highlight. Drop a little bit more in. We can layer over this once it's dry. We don't have to get things absolutely perfect first off, which is just as well, really. Let's do the same over here. There's a little bit of shadow on this side, which I'm going to put in. Right, and then more lemon yellow, because we've got less orangey at the top. Oh, my paper's dried. I have to quickly come in. Just soften that edge. This is just a damp brush. Not putting any crinkles or knobbles or anything of that kind on here at the moment. I just want to get the rough colours. I'm dabbing a bit more colour on while it's wet. Okay, is that going to be wet still? Yes, it's a little bit more in that crease. Okay. Now, I think we could probably, I'm going to leave that now because the paper's drying. But the main colours are on. We can modify this in later stages. I'm tempted to put a bit more colour on that up here, that light pieces. No, I'm going to resist, Michelle, resist. And here I could probably put a little more colour around here. I wanted to get that value change so badly. I overdid it, but now I've got to restrain myself and not put the colours on. Right, okay, so I'm going to put the video on pause and let this dry. And I think after that, I think we'll do some value checks and then we'll put some leaf colours in. Okay, I'm going to put him on pause. Okay, and we're back. He's not quite dry, but we're going to do some green mixing. So And if the yellow does bleed a little bit into the leaves, I'm not really all that bothered about that. Right, so let's have a look at these greens. These greens are very bright. So, oops. You need to get the brightness of the greens, and I think we'll keep them bright. We're going to keep them as close as we can get to what's actually in the reference. And I had to stand back and look at these lemons, and I kind of like the colours. We do need a bit more yellow up here, but I like the way they fade from the top, the lightest areas, in terms of this orangey shadow area. So I'm happy with that. There's details we can put in later, like this little crease there where it goes into the novel, but we can do that later. Right. So value of these leaves. I'm trying not to put this down on my wet lemons. So I'm going to reckon we've got about a value 5 there, which we do. And this dark one will be about 2, I would say, maybe even darker. Yeah, so we've got a value 5, that's probably slightly darker. So we've got a mid-value for our leaves that go kind of darker. So let's mix up our mid-value green and see how we can do that. Now, my standard palette doesn't include this cobalt turquoise, and I think we might need that. And my standard palette doesn't include phthalo because it gets everywhere. But we'll see if we can get that colour without resorting to phthalo. Right, so swatch paper. I hope that's dry-ish. I don't put my paper down on it. Okay, this is the colour, right? You can see it's 5. It's almost merging value-wise with the isolation. This is close to a mid-value grey here. Right, so let's try and mix this green. I'm going to try with cerulean. Cerulean's, we don't want to use ultramarine because it's a purpley blue. But cerulean is a greener blue. It's not particularly green, but it's greener. So let's see what we can do with cerulean. And we'll want also a greenish yellow, which is our lemon yellow. We want the colours on our palette that are closest to the colour we want to aim for. So cerulean, let's have a bit of lemon yellow. Yeah, oh, that doesn't look too bad at all, actually, does it? A bit more yellow. Just, I mean, I'm not sure I do a painting this colour because it's bright. Right, is this going to be? It's going to be slightly. Can you see that? Yes, you can. Slightly too blue, I think. But it's about the right value. It just needs to be slightly more yellow. Right. So let's put in a bit more yellow here. I reckon there's a lot of pigment in there. I'm just putting a little more water in there. So, yeah, let's use that. Okay. Right. Right, okay. I think we're good with that. I mean, the value looks good, the colour looks good, and we didn't have to resort to phthalo. I mean, I call that a win. Right, just putting everything out of the way. Let's have a go with these leaves. And we're going to go a little choppy with these leaves. We can go a little. We don't have to be quite so tight with these leaves. I'm going to put this start in this crevice in here, and where I can, I'm going to be careful in this bit. Where I can push that brush down right to the ferrule and get the belly of those bristles working, I will. Right, and if I need a bit of steadying, I'm putting my little finger on paper. Right. Using the point for the tip of that leaf. How's that looking? It's looking very bright, isn't it? Yeah, that leaf is going to go dark, but we can layer on extra colour over that. Right, now let's come down here. Oh, I made that one bigger, didn't I? I'm going to join the greens together where I can. This one, it's slightly lighter. Use a damp brush. Just soften that out. Doesn't matter if they all merge together at this point. Now this one's going to be darker. I can join these two together. This comes down to here. They don't have to be accurate renditions of leaves. It's a little bit in here. These are lighter, which is good because I'm running out of pigment. I've ended up lighter. A very light one down here. How's that looking? Kind of bright, isn't it? Bright, 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 but that's what we have. Right. Let's soften a couple of edges here and there. It's a stalk coming across, just a little bit of interest here and there. Could do with being a little darker, which I don't have right now. Okay, yeah, and once that bit goes darker in there, these lemons will come forward. Okay, I'm going to need a bit more colour. Let's mix up a bit more of this green and see how we go. Actually, I'm just going to let it and put it on pause and let this dry because I want to work up here, so I don't want to drag my arm over it. So just another couple of minutes to let it dry. Okay, little drying diversion. Let's put some colour up there. I've just been standing back, looking at it, and even though we haven't gone dark in the greens, you can still see those lemons are starting to come out, which is great. Right, now let's mix up the same colour again. Let's put some more leaves around these lemons. So cerulean. And lemon yellow, and a little bit of water, I think. Test it with a swatch, people. Yep, that'll do. And balance it. Right. And again, let's start in this crevice here. This will be negative painting that will define the edges of these lemons. I'm going to go right through into that leaf there. Using the point where I need a hard edge. Right, goes into this leaf here. We said we'd go behind, didn't we, for this one? Once I've outlined the lemon, I'm being quite broad in here. This is yellower over there, so did I have another leaf coming down? Maybe I did. There's one coming out here. Now here I'm putting in leaves. I can see that they're behind lemon. I'm just using them purely to define where this lemon is. There's a bit of stalk there, which is lighter. Now this bit is green, it's darker, but we're going to put this mid-value green on to start with. Okay. Around, let's leave that one, it's going to be yellower. Stalk, a little bit of light in there. We don't want an unbroken bit of green over here. There's a bit of white here and a stalk. Okay, right. So we do a bit of softening. Let's put this one over here, which is, I'm going to make a slightly yellower version of this one. Just gives a bit of variation in the colour. Quite yellow enough. Now, if we do our jobs correctly, people won't really be looking at the leaves. Actually, we'll be looking at the lemons. This stalk up there, right? I'm just going to put a little leaf poking out here. It's kind of in the picture. Just so we have something defining that lemon there, side of that lemon. Make it look convincing. There we go. Yeah, that looks better, doesn't it? There'll be some stalks and stuff up there. Okay, good. Right, so I think now we should put in the darker greens. I'll just put it on zoom so you can just see how it's looking in a slightly larger area. I wish I hadn't gone outside the lines here, but anyway, it's done now. Yeah, I'm going to leave the lemons themselves. I'm going to put some more darks into the leaves so those lemons really come to life. And I think it's looking okay right now. Now, okay, putting back on canvas cam. These dark greens, we've got to be careful with these dark greens. What we can't do with these dark greens is just make our current green darker just by adding black. And I'll show you why. In fact, if you can avoid darkening a colour without adding black, do so. Sometimes it's unavoidable. So let's take this colour here. So this is the chip. It's closest to that colour. It's green. It's quite an intense green, even though it's dark. It's value 3. But if we add black to our current green, what's likely to happen is black is going to make it grey because it's black. It will make it darker, but it will make it grey. So we'll end up with this colour here, which is a green, but it's a very grey green. And it's not what's there. If I put it next to, you see, that's not the colour. This is the colour. We're losing chroma is the technical way to think about it. So we need to make this green, but not lose the chroma, not make it grey, but keep it nice and intense and rich. So how are we going to do that? Let me put this chip here. So we've got a reference. Can you see that? Yes, you can. Good. All right. Now, this green is actually slightly bluer than our lighter valued. It's slightly darker. This is, where are we? This in here is very dark, but this is kind of a 3 or so. So let's mix up a 3. Put our sort of mid-dark darks in. Now, let's try a darker blue. Now, ultramarine is a slightly purpley blue, but it is darker. So let's see what kind of green this gives us if we mix it with our lemon yellow. You can see it's nice and dark. It's probably a bit too blue still. Right, now as we add in more and more yellow, of course, it's going to lighten because yellow is a very light colour. Yeah, that's not going to be dark enough, is it? Let's have a look. It's very blue. I'm wondering, I'm going to add in a smidgen of yellow ochre. I want to pull it slightly yellow, but I don't want to put in any more lemon yellow because it's lightening it. I'm hoping it won't dull it down too much. I'm even going to risk a little bit of burnt sienna. Right, I'm going to go with that. It's not quite the right colour. It's still slightly too blue, but I'm risking making it too grey. Okay, so let's put in some medium darks. Just this one here. I'm going to start putting in slightly less blocks, fewer blocks of colour here. So I'm going to get my smoothing brush and leave some gaps in the paper and give those leaves a little bit of value variation there. Right, now here, this paint just needs to be slightly runnier. Yeah, that's better. The paint does need to move around on the paper. I know we say that the water is just there to make it lighter, but it's also there to make the paint fluid. If I get a few blossoms or cauliflowers in these leaves, I don't mind. I want to keep my lemons pretty slick. I don't mind my leaves have a bit of texture in them. Dobs of colour here and there. I'll give some interest to these leaves. Contrast with the lemons. Okay. All right. A bit hard edge there because that's a stalk coming across. This is dark in here too. Just want to find that edge of the leaf there. Making sure my lemons are nice and pristine. Living in fear of dragging green paint across. Across these lemons at this point, which I probably will at some point, but anyway. It's my second dark colour going in, and these lemons should be really popping now. Right, what else do we have in here? I'm placing little bits of paint and then using my clean damp brush to wet the paper so the pigment flows out. Careful here. And get some water on that to soften up these edges before that paint dries. I think I may have left that one slightly too long. Never mind. A little bit just the other side of the stalk. Okay, yeah, I'm liking these blossoms in these leaves. I should put some more in down here now. Right, I'm just going to quickly stand back and see what they look like. Cool. Oh yes. Right. Let's use this. I know these stalks aren't actually green, but the value of this colour is about right. So I'm going to put a few of these stalks in. This one behind here. Little nubbles on the stalks, I do like. That'll just add a little bit of interest. I think that will work quite well. So some of these stalks are light. I need to put some yellow over that. I kind of botched this bit up here. Never mind. Dark stalk in here. And just my softening brush, just dragging over that edge. Made it just a little too light. Run out of pigment. And a little bit of dark down there. little bit. I'm going to mix up a little. I thought I could get away with it, but I couldn't. Couldn't quite get away with it. Being very careful when I get to the lemon. Softening the top edge. Green is actually, it's probably a little more yellow in there, but anyway. Could have gone a little darker, couldn't it? Right, I've got to stop futzing with these leaves, I think, soon. Just a little bit. And this one. What I'm going to do with this one up here. It's a bit of dark in. Put a little bit of shading into it. Don't want to go too dark. A little bit across here. I'm getting quite broad now. Right, and I think we're probably at the point where you can start looking at these lemons and putting some extra detail on them. You may need to go slightly darker. You need a little bit more dark down in the depths of these leaves. I'm going to leave that right until the end, I think. This bit's annoying me here. Okay, right, okay, right. Just let this, put this on pause. Let them dry and then we'll have a look at these lemons. Right, I've left it to dry a good while. I've had a look at it and I'm kind of liking it. I mean, we could, with a few tweaks, just leave it as is. This leaf is not pleasing me at all, but you know, we've got a good sense of form. We've got the colours of the lemons are pretty good. I like some of this depth of the leaves back here. I like the shapes that the leaves make around the edges. But since we've got the cameras on, let's see if we can take this a bit further. We've got a danger here. We've got this lovely light shadow on these lemons, and we could very easily ruin it. I'm just going to check the values. These are slightly too light here, but it does give the lemons a lovely luminosity. So if I look here, yeah, you see they're a lot darker. I'm tempted not to take them too much darker. I do want to put a little bit of colour up here, because they are slightly more intense yellow up here. So let me try with that. I'm just going to use plain lemon yellow for that. I'm going to need my softening brush quite a lot because I want most of this to be smooth. I know that lemons do have lumps and bumps on them, but I'm going to keep them as smooth as I can. I'm also not wanting to put green on them. Right, so let's do this one first. I just want a little bit more colour around this highlight. Right, a little bit of colour going down. I know right at the beginning of this we took the chroma out of that yellow. Right, and as it's wet I can drop some colour into it. I'm gonna take this down a little yellow ochre just to put a few indentations on. I'm not going to take the value down too much, I don't think. Just quite a light layer of colour. Maybe a little more. Just to suggest this indentation at the bottom. A little bit. I'm just softening that bottom edge slightly. Just gives a hint of it. Now this colour at the tip, I think it's going to, it looks green. Yeah, it's slightly more green. I'm gonna ignore that. I'm gonna just put a little bit of colour down here. Again, soften the bits that need softening. And there's very slight, whilst that paper's wet, there's a little dark bit. Hoping that won't be too hideous when it dries. Give it a little more colour. Yeah. Now it's very orange in there. I'm going to reckon that's about burnt sienna there. Let's check this. Yes, it's about burnt sienna. I'm going to put a little bit of burnt sienna just right in this piece where the lemons meet and very little light's getting in there. Let's soften that. This is just water on this brush and I'm pulling it across the edge so I get a bit of graduation of that colour coming out. I'm just going to, once the paper's wet, if I drop a bit of colour in, it'll spread. I'm hoping that's not too much. I need to stand back for this. You see, I really don't think it needs that much more. This one doesn't need much more. I just want a very slight hint of that lemon, just slight modulations. Let's use this one again. This little crinkle at the bottom. Just to suggest slight plane change here. And again, just a little bit at the bottom. Didn't really work that, did it? What's that looking? Yeah, that looks nice, doesn't it? I think I maybe could have even got a little bit more there. On a dangerous, dangerous point. Someone needs to rush into the room at this point and say, stop. Just a little bit of colour at the top. This lemon yellow again. Just a little bit, just to keep it from being too washed out. Some water on that. Maybe I'm not going to get blossoms there if I do it at this point. Okay. Well, I think I might just leave it. It's fine. I know we were going to put some darks in for these leaves, but I think I might. Just thinking about putting a little bit of wash over for these stalks, but let me just stand back, see what it. No, I think I'm going to leave it. I think I'm going to leave it there. I'm quite happy. I do like the luminosity of those lemons. They really are. They really are yellow, and you can feel the sunlight on them. And just a little bit of modulation to show the form. And I think that works really well. I'll just put it onto Zoom Cam so you can see it full screen. Yeah, I like that. Again, as I said before, if I was doing this as a real painting, I'd probably think about those leaves ahead of time more. But yeah, that's fine. They're good. I like it. I like it. Okay. Well, again, I hope you enjoyed that. So these lemons were fun, and the shadows are always tricky. But I think these came up rather well, and I enjoyed doing it. And if you have a go, please, I'd love to see what you do. And I hope you enjoyed it. And I will hopefully see you again. Bye bye.